Uganda faces a significant plastic pollution problem, generating 600 metric tons of plastic waste daily. A large portion of this waste is not collected or managed properly, leading to pollution in the environment, particularly in urban areas like Kampala, according to the International Growth Center (IGC). The National Environment Management Authority (NEMA) estimates that Kampala alone generates 51,000 tons of plastic waste annually. As Uganda joins the rest of the world to commemorate World Environment Day on 5th June in Kabale district, environment activists are calling upon the public to desist plastic pollution, adding that the cumulative impact in the environment is very disastrous.
So the entire world, the entire United Nations Environment Program system is focusing on plastic pollution. This is because plastic pollution has reached crisis levels. Plastic mass is competing with the natural biomass, which is disastrous. So there is lots of plastics in the oceans, seas, lakes, rivers, drainage channels, soils, name it. And we are seeing a lot of impact. Loss of fertility of our soils for agriculture, loss of our livestock. When these animals eat or ingest plastic coverers or plastic carrier bags, for example, the animals die. But having too much plastic bags, for example, and bottles, increases water runoff from the soils because the soils cannot allow water percolation because plastic is like a glass, so water is just passing. That increases water runoff, which washes away nutrients from the soil and making the soils, one, not fertile, but also soil erosion. And that erosion increases flooding downstream. So plastic pollution also contributes to 3 to 4% of greenhouse gas emissions in their manufacturing, but most importantly, when they are burnt. Our people do not know that open burning of waste is disastrous to their health. They think that burning of waste is a form of disposal. They are trying to solve a problem, not knowing that they are compounding the problem. When you burn that waste, you are releasing fumes in the atmosphere. But you who is burning, you are near those fumes. So you are ingesting the fumes, inhaling the fumes rather directly. So you are exposing yourself to carcinogenic fumes. Because when you burn plastics, you release carcinogenic fumes. So we are seeing cancers increasing. We are seeing global climate change. We are seeing increasing flooding. We are seeing increasing loss of fertility for our land. But we are not addressing the root cause. For us, we are looking very far for rocket science when actually the solutions are near. So plastic pollution kills fish, it kills our livestock, it clogs our drainage channels, meaning there is increased flooding. It increases the cost of treatment of water that we use to cook and drink. So plastic is very, very dangerous, not only for the environment, but also for the economy. So that's why the world is focusing on plastic pollution, because of the significant impact of plastics on human environment, but also human life and development.
This time we are talking about plastics, and globally the issue of plastics is a very pertinent issue. Everywhere in the world they are trying to find ways and means of addressing plastics. It is also an opportunity when the world comes to raise awareness about the environment and the need for the different stakeholders to take serious mitigation measures against the pollution of the environment or the degradation of the environment. Yes, you and me may be knowing that plastics do not easily decompose. They can take about 500 years in the soils or in the environment. And the danger is that the cumulative impact of having these plastic products going into the environment is enormous, because when you throw there a plastic this time, it remains there, and then tomorrow you come with another one, it will also remain there. So for a year, how many will you have thrown? And all these will still be in the environment. And collected together, their impacts is enormous. Yeah. So that is one of the biggest challenges we have with plastics.
Researchers have shown us that in 30 years from today, if nothing is done on plastic, plastic could be more than aquatic life in our lakes, in our rivers. So we need to do a lot. And when these plastics enter the lake, for example, fish sometimes end up eating some plastics, and this causes what we call microplastics in fish. So when you get a fish and eat it, you eat those particles of plastics that the fish ate in the lake. And scientists have shown us that those microplastics that we eat in fish, in meat, in water, end up going to our bodies, and these have been accounted to some common diseases. And some scientists have linked these cancers and the rest to this kind of plastics. So as we commemorate this day on 5th of June, we need to appeal to all Ugandans to make sure that where necessary, where possible, avoid plastics. Use plastic when it is really, if you don't have any alternative. And as Wemeko, we encourage people to go back to their traditional way of living, of using indigenous bags to carry their things, so that we can reduce on the numbers of plastics.
Much as government and civil society in Uganda have gone far in enlightening the public on disadvantages of plastics, there are several hindrances to this move.
Locally, we must find a solution for our plastics. We have to stop further importation of virgin plastics so that we deal with the legacy plastics we already have in the environment through recycling and reuse. We are in discussion with the Uganda Manufacturers Association and the Beverages Manufacturing to pilot the first phase of extended producer responsibility, because the law requires that he who produces plastics must get it out of the environment, must label it so that it is attributed. If you produce a water bottle, you must label it manufactured by Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola or kombucha or name it, so that when we get it in the environment, you are responsible. So I am happy that the beverages companies have come up with agreement to put money in a pool under Uganda Manufacturers Association, so that this money can pay Ugandans to go and collect plastics for recycling. So that's what we are doing, because it's the responsibility of the producer to collect their plastics. If they don't do it, we shall enforce the law against them. If we get it in the environment, we hold you accountable, because the law already makes it an offense. So about 90% of factories that produce plastics, only 45% has recycling mechanisms. 45%, meaning that 55% have no collection arrangement. They manufacture, you drink and throw.
Of course, one of the missing gaps has been the aspect of implementation of the laws. We have very good laws. Everywhere the world is celebrating our laws. But unfortunately, putting these laws into action has been a very big challenge. And others have even reached to the level of saying that we make the laws, and when they are carried and taken elsewhere into other countries, they implement them better than us who put them in place. So, like you would see, I will mention Rwanda, for example. The political will is there, the laws are there, and their implementation becomes more effective. But when you come and find the laws are in place, and you try to implement today, tomorrow somebody comes and says, oh no, you shouldn't have done this, then that becomes a very big challenge. I think we are almost there. Once the politics or the politicians decide we can have these laws implemented, we shall see things improving. It's really that will to say, like for example, recently you could have had the president coming out saying no more littering. Eh? That is a very good political statement. It empowers the enforcers. But if such statements are not seen to be coming out, not only from the president, but also from other political people, it becomes difficult for the technocrats to implement. And if the technocrats implement and tomorrow somebody comes and says, oh, why are you doing this? It becomes a bit challenging for them to go ahead with the implementation. The other missing gaps is the lack of awareness. Of course, we shouldn't always say it is government, and we isolate ourselves from the implementation. We as stakeholders, we as the communities, we as the people of this country have a very big role to play in the environment, in the conservation, in the well-being of the environment. Because not always is government the one that is cutting the forests. Even us as people, we are doing it. Not always is government throwing or littering waste. It is us, the people, the communities that are littering the streets and so on and so forth. So, community commitment to conservation, community commitment to the well-being of the environment is very important. And therefore, we need awareness much as we need the laws. We need the local leaders, not only the big politicians, the local leaders. What is your role if you are the LOC1 chairperson? What have you done when you see a lot of waste being dumped anywhere? I think that creates the kind of need that we have in the environment.
The lack of awareness, population increase, and industrialization are issues accelerating encroachment on the natural resources.
The other thing that I have seen that has been a challenge to the environment, to conservation, I think the issue of investors. The investors have done good economically, but in terms of conserving our environment, they have done more damage than good. Go to here in Mukono, look at the wetlands. How many wetlands are still standing? Here in Kawempe, how many wetlands are still standing? You have seen many forests have gone, but the law is very clear. Even if you had if it had been gazetted, what you do in a wetland must be compliant to the environmental situation there. You cannot just come and say, I have a land title. You have heard the president say, we shall have to give back, to buy back the wetlands that were already given out. And what does that mean? It means if if the wetland had been sold off or it had been leased, then it will have to be brought back. You cannot just use a wetland just because you have a lease or you have a title in that wetland. The laws do not permit it. And therefore, whatever you do in a wetland must be something that is compatible with the wetland environment. So, if you are going to, say, have a tourism project, that is okay. If you are going to have a fishery kind of project, that is compliant with the wetlands environment. So those are the kind of activities that we expect to happen in the environment. Even if you have a lease, you are not mandated to just come and degrade that wetland. So I think that is one of the challenges that our investors have done more harm than good. For example, even some of the factories that are here that are manufacturing plastics, like the single-use plastics, Kavera. Some of them, after being chased from Tanzania, from Kenya, they came and found safety here. So that is a very big challenge because it's like they are dumping what they came with from wherever they came. So I think one of the key things is to have standards. If you are an investor, what are you coming to do? Where are you going to do it? And if it is in the environment, how are you going to address your pollution? Because there is that extended responsibility. It is not about you producing and sending to the environment, but what can you do to make sure that you address the pollution your activities are causing? If it is, for example, a plastic bottle producer, are you able to collect back those bottles and then process them again into something else? I think that would be very, very important. I wouldn't want to say to be seen as somebody who does not want factories, but I want responsible factories, responsible producers, people who do the right things at the right time and take cognizance of the fact that they are producing in an environment that must be kept for posterity. I would, because there are no definite specific parameters, but I would say our degradation levels have been enormous. When, for example, you look at the floods that you see in Kampala, why do they come? Why were they not there? I think those also they show you that actually the environment has been degraded. Where water used to cross is where we have constructed our houses, where our people used to let wetlands stay is where we have gone to construct. And for example, nowadays it's not as bad as it used to be. You used to remember Bwaise, that people were suffering because of floods. It was not a surprise. It was not miraculous that the wetland, the floods were there because people constructed in what were wetlands. And therefore, you don't expect much better if the Baganda say, gakulukuta, jegali gakozechi. So water will always find its path. If you construct in its path, then that means you will be a victim of floods. So I think we need to guide our communities as they construct, as they find where to stay, so that they don't get affected. And the other thing which is affecting more especially the urban centers, everywhere you construct, you tile, you have pavers. The water that used to go into the ground, it just taps on the ground and runs away. And where does it go? Into the flood plains. And when you see people flooding, you don't really ask yourself what is happening. They have done it. And you know, I must also say this. In the past, we had few houses, and now the houses have increased. Everywhere the house is was a place where the soil, where the rain would fall and enter the ground. But now it falls on the roof and it runs away. So these are things that we are likely to see because people are continuing to construct, people are continuing to pave, and we shouldn't really be surprised that tomorrow or the other day flooding will keep on happening. Population is a very big factor in environmental degradation. If you have a big population, they must get land because they want to eat. For me, I started knowing about population when we were 8 million. We came to 16, we were 32, and now we are 40 something. You can imagine the land that we have is not growing bigger, it is static. So what does that mean? What used to be a forest is now being to be claimed by people to grow crops. More especially if we don't have very, very good methods of guiding the population, because the population will grow. But how do you guide it? Because we are not the only people that are growing in terms of population. But the key thing is how are we guiding our people in terms of the sustainability of the environment.
Environment stakeholders have a message for the public.
Environment is me and you. So don't say environment is for so and so. Don't say environment is for Arali. Don't say environment is for Mary. Don't say environment is for Mr. Kamese. No. Environment is me and you. How do we protect it for our future generation to find it? Because if our grandparents had done what we are doing today, I think things would be worse.
Plastics are very harmful to our environment, and we actually have to be very sensitive on how we use them. We have to make sure that we don't just dispose them carelessly into the environment.
But we should look at environment management as a joint responsibility. Don't look at them as the solution to environment management alone, because NEMA and the entire government cannot manage environment without the citizens. So I call upon the citizens to join ongoing government efforts to ensure that we restore our nature, we live in harmony with our environment.